conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having us here. I'm the Policy Director for the Ocean Energy Association, and it's already been introduced. So I won't be long, but I just wanted to confirm indeed that we are trying to represent the sector as best we can at European level. We have we have been representing for 4 technologies: wave, tidal, OTEC, and salinity gradient. And the key objective of the association is obviously to get a good political framework and a good support framework at EU level. One more point, to help us achieve this aim, we've published earlier this year a vision paper for ocean energy, which looks at technological development, the project pipeline, which is key to advancing the industry, and of course finance and market mechanisms, which leads me to the start of this presentation, focused on funding opportunities at EU level. One of them you probably already know, it's been going on for a few years, it's the NER 300. It's supposed to finance demonstration projects in the field of renewable energies and carbon capture and storage. 3 projects were allocated to ocean in the first round of the NER 300, and 1 project was also allocated to Portugal, even though it was floating wind, not offshore ocean. There is a next round that's currently going on. The EIB will evaluate the projects, and we expect results from that early next year, probably around April, May. As you see on the table on the left, renewables have done quite well in NER 300. At the beginning, it was supposed to fund CCS mostly, and in the end, even the project yet to still see on this table has failed to deliver. So the 264 million euros that it was allocated will be available for the next call to fund probably mostly renewable projects again. There is one CCS project that is still in the run, but it doesn't look too good. You probably know that NER 300 stems from the emission trading system. There is a good potential political appetite for a new NER 300 because some member states and some stakeholders were very happy with the results. And there has been a discussion about improving the emission trading system recently, over the last 2-3 years. Parts of that discussion led to something called backloading, which was the idea of pushing back the allowances that were to be put on the market to a later stage so they don't overflood the market and decrease the price of carbon. Because NER ideas are based on the price of carbon, so the lower the price, the lower the money that's available for funding projects. In the backloading discussion, there was a potential new NER 600. It has not gone through. The objective was mostly to focus it on steel, cement, heavy industry players to help them achieve level of innovation that they wouldn't achieve otherwise through normal innovation support. Now, even if we did go for a new NER 300, and I mean, the backloading will not provide that, but there is scope for it certainly in the revision of the emission trading system. There will be a need for a revision of the way it's been designed, namely the enabling of upfront finance has been very key, and the Commission was not very certain of this, or at least they were not willing to go this way. But this has been proven to be a really key factor in success or failure of the project. And we think there is a need for a better match between the finance tools, namely at the moment a revenue stream-based project, and the level of innovation that it is supposed to fund. Because back 5 years ago, when the project categories were designed, the Commission was very ambitious about what type of innovation they wanted. To give you an example, outside of the ocean sector, in the wind sector, they wanted 15 megawatts turbine. And those of you who are operating in this field as well will know that this is fairly unrealistic at the moment. Right, so the last thing about the emission trading system is outside of NER 300, it also provides revenues for the member state to fund climate change mitigation and adaptation. And that included, of course, renewables. The problem with it is that it's not mandatory, so you can imagine how willing member states will be. The second problem is we have a very low price of carbon, so the general amounts are quite low. And the third one is the economic crisis, obviously, so that member states might be tempted to allocate those funds to other budget areas rather than just promotion of mitigation. So there is a fourth point, is that, like in Germany, for example, some member states already decided what they wanted to do with that money a while ago, and they already budgeted it. Germany, for example, budgeted 17 euros per ton of carbon, and today the price oscillates between 3-4 euros, and as you can imagine, the projects you can fund with such a difference of money are not going to be the same. So I wanted to move to the bulk and probably the more current thing, which is Horizon 2020. The work program is currently being discussed. It's finalized. We can say it's going to be published on the 11th of December. And I wanted to give you a preview of what's in it. So you probably know that there are 3 priorities across the entire program: excellent science, industrial leadership, and the one that interests us most, societal challenges. Within societal challenges, you have a subcategory called secure, clean, and efficient energy, and that's where we've managed to include ocean energy support. Just to give you a rough idea of the budget comparisons, on the third line you will see secure, clean, and efficient energy. It's budgeted with 5,782 million euros, so it's a reasonable amount. I'm sure we can do something with it. And the way the Commission has structured it is that within this secure, clean, and efficient energy technologies, you have the field of about competitive low-carbon technologies. And in that field, there is a first call for basic research. It's called LCE1. There is one for technology development, one for technology demonstration, one for demand-side market uptake, and the last one, which is a bit away from the previous ones. It's in a different category, but could be very interesting, is supporting first-of-a-kind commercial scale demonstration project. So I'm going to go a bit in detail in those, and there are also 3 other parts that could be interesting for us within Horizon 2020. It's blue growth, which is part of the agriculture, food security domain, and then there is SME competitiveness and research infrastructures. But I'm going to leave those, otherwise I'm going to miss my 15 minutes. So, right, so LC1, basic research, it's new knowledge and technologies. So the idea is to bring, and the Commission for Horizon 2020 works with the TRLs. So it's bringing technology solutions at technology readiness level 2, bring them to 3 and 4. And they're looking at technologies that will be the backbone of our system for 2030 and 2050, with the aim of scaling up technologies that are already developed at laboratory scale. And another good point is that supply chains can actually be included, provided it's helping the technology develop as well. LC2 is about new generation renewables. So you move from TRL 3.4 to 4.5. There is a big focus on understanding the risks, not only the technological risks, but also all the others, financing and regulatory. And the EU contribution for these type of projects is in the range of 3 to 6 million. That does not mean you cannot propose projects that go below or above it, but it means this is the average range that they're looking for. And like the others, they are challenge-based calls, which means you're supposed to have a specific challenge, and your project is supposed to help address that challenge. So I've put down for you the 2 challenges under the LC2. It's the first one for 2014 is develop emerging designs and components. And for 2015, they've moved to ensuring efficiency and effective long-term cost reduction and high levels of reliability and survivability. Now, I'm not going to read through the entire text, but I just put it up there because I think it identifies very similarly to what the industry has identified the research needs that we have, namely reliability, survivability, efficiency, long-term cost reductions. The third one is demonstration. So we move up the TRLs again, bringing technologies from 5.6 to 6.7 with a bigger contribution. And this one is going to be probably the key one to putting kit in the water, possibly even arrays, depending on the price of the prototypes. But I expect this call to be quite significant for us. The challenge is to demonstrate advanced full-scale devices in real-world conditions. So I think this is exactly where we want to go. Last month we had our conference in Edinburgh, and I think every single session mentioned the fact that the industry needs to put arrays in the water in the coming years. So this would be one for this. And LC4, market uptake, is here to ensure a level of growth needed to deliver EU targets. It's for existing systems, TRL 7 to 9, but as you can see from the EU contribution, 1 to 2 million, that's not so much going to help you putting kit in the water. It's more about, not about the actual technology, but about the enablers. So public acceptance, permitting, one-stop shops, best practice, things like that, which are also very important. Now the one that's a bit away from the others is this one, supporting first-of-a-kind commercial scale projects. And the idea is to establish a facility for making loans or extending guarantees to financial intermediates who are willing to do that. And this is also very clearly a key point, because putting equity or debt into a project is fine, but when you have financial guarantees from the European Commission or European Union, then that will help both of the above to realize. So they want to de-risk the first-of-a-kind investments, scale up the technologies that are 6 to 8 at the moment. And this will likely be available from the second semester 2015. So it's not for immediately, but it's coming soon. Finally, blue growth. 2 potential interesting calls under the new offshore challenges category. One, preparing for the future innovative offshore economy. Same as LCE4, it's more study type, so it's 2 million per project roughly. So they're looking at support facilities, control systems, and the objective is to assess the most promising and sustainable business model. So it's not actually developing technology per se. BGE6, Blue Growth 6, actually is more like that. It's got a nice budget, 8 to 10 million per project, and the idea is to work on remotely executed, unmanned underwater operations. So that can be for us, that can be for other industries as well, obviously. The oil and gas sector is in this call as well. I mean, at the moment, the work with the Commission is very good, and we have a very good relationship, and we hope that most of the identified areas where we need research will be included in the next work program. There is a final interesting new thing that I wanted to discuss about Horizon 2020, is that 2 months ago we've been contacted by the Commission, by DG Energy, to discuss a new idea they have, namely to link Horizon 2020 funding with the structural funds. This was forbidden before, so it's now a new possibility, and the Commission is seeking for advice on how to best do it. But you could combine both for the same project. So the idea is to first get in the structural fund request, because it takes longest, and then to get your Horizon 2020 call answer. And it would help probably do a better use of structural funds, because they have not been as well used. The money is there, but often they are not used, and there are a number of reasons for that. But I'm not going to go into that. And the Commission will continue the discussions, and at some point we're expecting a guidance document of the kind to help stakeholders take this opportunity. 1 minute, that's good. The last point, it's not directly related to funding, but I think it's going to be very interesting, is DG Mare. It's the same at the Edinburgh conference we did last month. Talked to us about the communication that they're going to launch in January. Now the date is finally fixed, 20th of January. Within that communication, they are calling for an Ocean Energy Forum, and this forum should be a link between the research, the industry, the member states, the Commission. So if you want, the link between the industry and the regulatory framework decision makers. And we're working with them at the moment to see how we best do this, who should be involved in it, and how we structure it so that it's actually more than just people meeting each other every 6 months and with nothing in between. But the idea is very clearly to have strong interactions and to understand the issues and find solutions as well for the deployment. So it's less going to be focused on funding specific projects, but it's going to be focused on defining the right regulatory infrastructure so that projects can be funded under that infrastructure. Finally, you might have heard that we launched the technology platform. We're in the process of designing it, and we invite candidates. So if you want to join, just contact me. We do that. It's probably going to input in the forum, in the technology section of the forum launched by DG Mare. And it's the same. The objective is going to be to have a very precise vision through a strategic research agenda of the next research topics we would like to have included. Almost all renewable technologies had a technology platform. The ocean energy sector didn't, and now it does. And we're hoping that it's going to be as successful as the others have for shaping the research needs of the industry. With this, I thank you. If you have any questions, we are available after that. Thank you very much.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much to the WavEC for inviting us to present KIC InnoEnergy. As it was said in the introduction, KIC InnoEnergy is one of the three KICs, knowledge innovation communities, set up by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. Since I think it is still not very well-known European mechanism, I would like to devote the first part of my presentation to explain a little bit what is KIC InnoEnergy and to contextualize what I will explain later, which is, I think, the most interesting part. And in this second part, I will speak about opportunities for funding new products and services within the KIC InnoEnergy program. Okay. So why does KIC InnoEnergy exist? Well, the European Union identified around 2007-2008 that in Europe we are very good at producing knowledge, we are very good at research, but we are not that successful in bringing these research results to the market. So they said, okay, we have to do something about it. They went into an exploratory phase where they tried investigated different models, and they came up with the idea of creating the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. Since this was an experiment, they said, okay, let us pick 3 topics and let's see what happens. One of them was ICT, the other one was climate change, and the third one was sustainable energy. Okay, so they launched in 2009, they launched a public bid where there were different consortia from all around Europe. They made their proposals, and in the topic of sustainable energy, there was a consortium called InnoEnergy that won this contest, and this awarded the consortium InnoEnergy the possibility to have a contract with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology to develop innovation within the field of sustainable energy. Okay, as you know, there are many mechanisms within the European Union to fund innovation, research, and so on. So the KICs are positioned close to the market. We want to fill this gap that so far has been present in the European research and innovation landscape. Okay, I think I missed I don't know why I cannot see this slide here. There was a very nice map of Europe here with different partners, and here I usually explain that InnoEnergy is a European company composed by 27 shareholders. These 27 shareholders are companies, research centers, universities, and business schools from all around Europe. They have organized themselves into 6 different geographical nodes. The headquarters of this company is in Eindhoven in the Netherlands, and there are subsidiary offices, regional offices in different countries, also here in Portugal and Spain, where we have what we call the Iberian node. Okay, so first, I think the difference of KIC InnoEnergy vis-a-vis other European mechanisms is that it's a company, that it has shareholders, and shareholders that have committed structurally to push this forward and to get involved really in the activities. Okay, our objective is to become the leading engine of innovation and innovation in the field of sustainable energy. And I would like to devote some time to 2 keywords. First one is innovation. When we talk about innovation, we like to say innovation for us is invention plus commercialization. And this commercialization part, as you can see, it's underlined and in bold letters. This part is very important, and especially for those of us who come from research and so on, it's the part where we are usually weakest. So that's why we insist a lot. And we have developed an innovation readiness level tool where we do not only consider technology, but also other aspects like market readiness, customer readiness level, society readiness level, and so on. So first message, for us innovation is just not technology, it's much more than that. Second thing is we operate in the field of sustainable energy. For us, sustainability in the field of energy means three things, basically. Reduction of the cost of energy, increase of the operability in the field of energy, and third thing, reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions. And all this focusing on 6 thematic fields. So the 6 thematic fields are chemical fuels, clean coal technologies, renewable energy, here comprising solar, ocean energy, and wind energy. And the others that you can read in the slide, I cannot read it from here, but I think it's maybe not that important. Okay, what we do? We basically do 3 things. First thing is talent generation, so everything which is related with education. Second thing is development of innovative products and services. And third thing is support to entrepreneurs, support to creation of new ventures. All these 3 things are not detached from each other, they are connected through what we call the knowledge triangle. Okay, what we do in education. So we have different programs, master programs, PhD school, and executive programs. So far it sounds quite standard. What we try to do differently here is that we do not teach our engineers technology, we also teach them business, and we also teach them innovation and entrepreneurship. All our programs are sorry, there's a problem with my presentation. All our programs are international because we think this is a key aspect for the future game changers in the field of energy. Our business is global, it's not local anymore. Second thing, and I will explain a little bit more in detail, is the development of innovative products and services in the field of energy. I will leave this for later. And the third thing, as I was saying, is support to entrepreneurs. So people, engineers, business people that have ideas to create new companies in the field of sustainable energy, and we help them here in 4 dimensions. One is technology, of course. But we also help them with the market, bringing their first customer, funding finance, and supporting them in the human aspect, not only with education, but also building complementary teams, which is very important for business creation. So in this particular field, we are supporting more than 50 ventures from all over Europe, and 8 of them at the end of 2012 were qualified internally by ourselves as startups created because they had either had the first sale or they had raised investments for more than €500,000 equity. Again, there is a problem with the slide. We have how we are funded. We have 10 different revenue sources. We have our partners that contribute with both cash and in-kind contributions. We have a very important funding coming from the EIT, from the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. This year, 2014, we are expecting to have around 70 million euros funding. And for the future, we have also implemented some mechanisms that should contribute to make the kick-in energy financially sustainable. As I said before, we are a company. We are a for-profit company, but a company which has decided not to distribute dividends in case profit is produced. So all the profit that we produce, we want to reinvest it in more activity. Okay, so this is how our funding perspectives look like. So it's quite, we are fulfilling the plan, and for the next years, we think that we will be able to fulfill these figures that you see on the slide. especially now that the Horizon 2020 has confirmed the budgets and so on for the coming years. Okay, now I would like to devote some time particularly to our program, which is devoted to funding new products and services, new innovative products and services in the field of sustainable energy, and again, of course, within the field of ocean and offshore wind energy. Okay, what is for us an innovation project? So for us, an innovation project, as I said before, is the transformation of existing knowledge into marketable products and services. This has to be related this has to, at the end of the day, it has to aim for these 4 objectives that I have mentioned before, so decreasing the cost of energy, increasing operability, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I'm very sorry, but the slides are not okay. One of the particularities of this program is that we are focusing on quite high TRLs. So for us, in order to start with a kicking energy project, the technology has to be above TRL 4, so meaning that the proof of concept has been achieved at least at laboratory level. This program is open not only for current partners of KIC Energy, it's also open for newcomers. People that are interested in joining KIC are welcome. I cannot go into the details, but just let you know that there are different types of affiliation to KIC Energy, and depending on this, there are different rights and obligations. So there is a group of partners that joined 3 years ago, and that were the ones that created KIC Energy, but continuously there have been new partners that have been joining the program, and for the future it's also open to excellent partners, to excellent ideas, to excellent projects. Okay, so how to participate, eligibility criteria. Well, in order to present a proposal within our program, as I will mention later, there is a specific website where you can download all the information and all the details related to the call, but I would like to mention some very basic things. So first thing is the goal of the project has to be to develop an innovative product or service in the field of sustainable energy, and very important, with a market opportunity. If there is no market opportunity, even if there is a product, we will not fund it. This is extremely important. Second thing, projects are done on the basis of open innovation, so collaboration is required, and here we enforce that there is international collaboration. Since the goal of these projects is to develop products that will be marketed, we think that the smaller the consortium, the better. So there is a minimum number of partners, 3, but there is also a maximum 7. So this, I think, it's quite different from other collaborative programs within the European Union. And of course, the proposal has to fall within one of these 6 thematic fields. These are the criteria that we use for assessing, and as you can see here, we are considering business, risk assessment, and many other things I cannot read from here, but I'm sure you can do. Okay, we have developed some roadmaps where we specify what we would like to support within these 6 thematic fields. These roadmaps are very much based on the set plan, but I would say they are a subset of many technologies that are identified in the set plan. We have taken the set plan as a starting basis, but we have worked with our experts from research, from business, and we have picked up those technologies that we think will have more impact on the market. And again, as I said, you can find these roadmaps on this website that you can see here. We have a call which is open right now. It will be closed on December 1st. So there is, I think, those of you that didn't know about this, I think there's practically no time to join. But there will be 2 new calls next year in 2014. So the first one on the first half 2014 will open on February 1st and will be open till May 31st. And we are also planning to do some road shows, not only in Iberia, so not only in Portugal and in Spain, but also in other countries where Kikin Energy has some branch offices. Okay. I just would like to show some examples of projects that we are supporting nowadays. And currently, these are related to offshore wind. So there are different projects, many of them related to increasing operation and improving operation and maintenance, reducing cost of operation and maintenance for offshore wind farms, and some others that are related to ocean energy. For example, this new wave energy converter that you can see in the middle of the slide that is aiming for cost of energy of 10 euro cents per kilowatt hour. I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Good morning, and thank you, the organizers, for the invitation. I would like to share with you, this is the main purpose of my presentation, to share with you some ideas, some information about the role of the structural funds, the European structural funds, in financing concrete projects, concrete initiatives in the field of energy. Let me start by the good news. I'm not going to share with you a very detailed presentation on how we're going to work in 2014 to 2020, because we are not yet at that stage of the preparatory work for those programs. But nevertheless, let me start with some good news. And the good news are that in last week, the European Parliament has finally approved the political agreements reached in the trialogue among the Parliament, the Commission and the Council on the domain of the structural funds, the cohesion policy funds, that is the regulatory, the legal framework necessary to start up the programming, designing of the operational programs of the future. What we can expect now is that in the beginning of next year, the different member states are in the whole dimensions of the requests to start the negotiation process with the European Commission to deliver in a couple of months what is called the partnership agreement, is the global agreement to use to organize the application of the structural funds in each member state. Therefore, the programming work for that application of those relevant financial resources in each member state is we can say, previous to the second semester of the next year. It goes without saying that for a country like Portugal, those financial resources are a critical financing resource for our own public structural policies. Those are very relevant, very significant sources of financing for policies like R&D, like innovation, like even labor markets, active policies like education, and so on and so on. So therefore, even though there are many other sources of financing in the public domain, we heard a few minutes ago talking about Horizon 2020, which is obviously a very relevant of those sources. For a member state, for a country like Portugal, we cannot forget the relevance, the importance, the share of those specific funds, more, I would say, more global, which are the European structural funds, but for a specific country like ours, a very relevant one. So what I'm going to show you is a global perspective of how the work is nowadays done, and what kind of stage has we have pursued until now. Now, I must say that there are also not such good news, some bad news, and the bad news that I cannot show you in a detailed way, like my colleague previously had done in the Horizon 2020, very detailed and concrete measures to support each field of public policy, as I would like to know. First of all, let me start with the starting point. We are talking about global financing resources for what we can call socio-economic program, medium-term socio-economic program. So the first question is how to put the money in such a large spectrum of intervention. And the first issue is to show that there is a place, there is an important role to play in some specific sector, which is the energy sector. That is what those figures want to show. As this is not new for anyone in this room, but we must start by a clear definition of what are our national constraints, which are the objectives of such global intervention programs. This graph points out the fact that Portugal is one of the EU member states with the highest level of energy dependence. And it makes the point that there are a need for public policy to overlap this situation, and this needs a very strong public policy. Taking only the year of 2011, for example, what the graph shows is that more than 2/3 of our final consumption must be bought abroad. Another way to show this, to show the relevance of such an intervention, is to talk about some figures, financial figures. The bill of our energy dependence is growing. It's a very strong one, and maybe the more significant figure is to say that for our deficit in our external balance of goods, 1/3 is due by this specific domain. This must show us why this is important to have a specific allocation of resources in such a domain. The second starting point, I can say it like this, is that we have already a clear definition that our problem is the energy field is not only a financial or budgetary one, that there are many other perspectives that show us that this is really important to take care of this domain. And this is nowadays clearly defined in the general documents, the general strategic documents, either from the European Commission, the European level, either from the national side of one. We have lots of strategic documents at European level and also at the national level. We don't need, as a first priority, to set a general approach, a strategic approach on what has to be done in several domains of our intervention. So the question is more and more to go to the concrete terms on how public policy can intervene to overlap our main constraints and to show some concrete directions to the whole domain of stakeholders, public and private ones, that share those opportunities to intervene in this field. So we don't have not anymore a need for much more elaboration on the strategic way, but we need to put in concrete terms, to have concrete political measures to operationalize, to concretize those strategic aims or goals. And one of the main issues on this side is to look for the financing sources for public or semi-public policies. That's what I would like to stress on this slide. Specifically on the programming period, the programming work for next period, 2014-2020, there are already some specific and definitions, much of them coming from the global agreements made on the European level. What we know now is that we have some specific thematic objectives that all the funds must pursue. So we cannot create another objectives. We have a specific set of 11 thematic objectives. One of those is what is written in the slide. Like others, I cannot see it from here, but I expect that you can do it. Oh, thank you. So one of them is that formulated in that very general way, supporting the shift towards a low-carbon economy in all sectors. Too general, one must say. But specifically in what concerns the priority investments and the investment priorities, like in the thematic objectives, which represents a set of predefined priorities, which does not allow that each member state can be creative on this field. In the domain of the investment priorities, there are also a number of priorities which must get our attention. The first of one is to promoting the production and distribution of renewable energy resources. That's, I would say, this is what matters for us today. Our work in Portugal in the program development process that we are nowadays taking in count is to translate those general thematic objectives and those also general investment priorities in concrete public policy measures to support the intervention of the next 7 years, which are what I can show you for the moment, which are the main ideas for those concrete measures. Mainly on two directions, two general directions, which are nowadays discussed with our partners in the European Commission, but does not represent any problem at the stage of the global definition. The first one is to have a clear measure to finance the production of technologies that have passed their stage of maturity. What does it mean? That we are putting in place some concrete measures, some concrete programs to fulfill those aims that are represented in this the slide. What are the significant examples of that kind of intervention? Those who are written there, so thermosolar, solar photovoltaic, biomass, biogas, upgrade and injection of biomethane into natural gas system. So some of those are which are being conceived in this first dimension of the operational programs. The second one is, the second set of interventions is about technologies with great potential, but still under development or demonstration and high costs. So for the first time, I would say, we can have in the next programming period a specific domain of intervention dedicated to such kinds of public support in those kinds of technologies. The examples are there. We are talking about wave and tidal energy. We are talking about offshore wind energy and so on. So this is the opportunity, I would say. This is what we can share for the moment, I would say. But I must say also a final word on this. The whole programming period of 2014-2020, in what concerns the structural funds, but I would say also in other European funds, like the Horizon 2020, is led by specific words of programming for results. And the global idea of the partnership agreement that each member state is nowadays negotiating, discussing with the European Commission, and which will be in place sometime next year, is a concrete contract which defines money, funds, resources, and also results to be presented. And this is a responsibility of course, the national authorities of each member state, but also as all the stakeholders, public and private ones, that in each phase of the process are going to assume some responsibilities in the execution of those resources. The objective is to have in each specific field of intervention, a clear identification of the expected outcomes and clear measure of how to represent them along the time. Of course, in the 2017-2018, when each member state must to present the intermediate reports to the European Commission, but I would say in the most general way, in every year of the execution of those European funds. Final words to say that we are, as you can see, in a very preliminary stage of programming for the next period, 2014-2020, of our operational programs. But this is the time, this is the concrete moment for in every sector, in every set of stakeholders, to come with their arguments, to share their opinions, and to contribute to the whole programmation of the operational programs. This is the time where those kind of measures are going to be designed. And this is the time that all of you in this room can have their own share of responsibility in the designing of the future programming period. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have to be a bit careful because we're so close in a room here together, Netherlands, Portugal, but there's still an hour difference, but it must be afternoon now. Thank you, WavEC and the Dutch Embassy for organizing this event and giving ING the opportunity to talk about financing, and particularly financing in the field of renewable energy, and even more with a specific focus on offshore. As said, ING is still a global commercial bank, active in many financial services and products. We have specialized industry desk, and one of the important sectors therein is energy. But for instance, we also are active in the field in telecoms or oil and gas transportation. I'm responsible for EMEA, as was said, but we have sister teams in New York covering the Americas and a sister team in Asia covering Asia. ING has an ambition to play a leading force in the transition to a low-carbon economy. And we would like to work with our clients to drive our environment and our economy to a sustainable world. The dedicated structured finance, power and renewable desk consists of 15 professionals with a very diversified background. We have technical engineers, we have people who are specialized in finance or economics or in law. And where we have local people on the ground, as in Portugal, where we still have an operating branch, we work together if there's a project, for instance in Portugal, with the local people on the ground. So we can combine local engagement, local knowledge, with really specialized sector expertise. 80% of our business is actually still traditional, long-term, non-recourse project financing. Next to that, we may get involved in, for instance, a bridge loan to a bond takeout or a more hybrid type of financing, which may be a combination of a straightforward corporate loan with underneath, for instance, a large investment or capex program. ING works a lot with multilaterals like the European Investment Bank, the export credit agencies, but also, for instance, the EBRD. And those institutions are still very fundamental in getting the financing for projects in the area of renewable energy, particularly where it pertains, for instance, big new technologies like offshore wind, or maybe even more earlier stage technologies as well. Our global energy portfolio within ING is roughly 3.5 billion euros, and 1/3 used to be already spent in renewable energy, and we are heading to a portfolio which will consist roughly 50-50 split renewables and conventional power. This is an overview of recent transactions ING has been a leading financial player in. You will see that mainly to date It's a combination of PV solar, onshore wind, and in the recent years we really got involved in offshore wind energy. For those who are maybe a little bit less familiar about project financing, in project financing the aim is actually to finance a single asset or a portfolio of assets on a ring-fenced, non-recourse basis, meaning that there is financing on the operating company, but the debt does not rely on any further guarantees from the sponsors/investors. Normally, the operating company, for instance, an offshore wind park or a PV solar proposition, will get the money from the banks or the lenders on that level. The operating company is the entity who enters into the important contracts, like the construction contract and the O&M contract. The ING does take construction risk. There may be financial institutions who cannot actually work with construction risk and can only come into the financing post-construction. Our clients are, or the sponsors or investors here, are traditionally independent power producers, the bigger utilities, and a lot of equity or renewable funds. We as banker, we are actually very simple. There's no upside for us. In the end, we just want our debt to be repaid on time and as scheduled. The security in the financing will actually consist of a full comprehensive security package where basically the lenders take security over all assets in the project, including the contracts. Basically, those financings traditionally were done based on long tenors, matching the duration, for instance, of the support regime and matching the duration of the offtake or the power purchase agreement. The financial world is under increased regulation, and Basel III, for instance, does put some pressure on the capabilities of banks providing long tenors. And actually long tenors do match those propositions very well, because if a project is up and running, then actually they really guarantee long stable cash flow generation. Due to the long tenor discussion, you see that banks are actually looking at an option that we still do the long tenor traditional financing, or we still have a long amortization schedule underneath it, but the legal tenor we shorten. We call that a hard mini-perm. I don't think it has anything to do with a hairdresser. We also have the soft mini-perm variant, where basically you still give a long tenor, but somewhere down the road you introduce cash sweeps or maybe a margin step up to increase the refinancing predictability. In general, renewable energy project financings do represent a construction phase plus an O&M phase. Construction in PV solar and onshore wind is actually very short periods. When we move to offshore wind, we're really getting into the 3 years construction periods. The main risk banks will be looking at is indeed the construction risk. One of the hot items in the offshore wind energy is that we see a lot of multiple contracting, which actually opens up the risk of interface. Banks very much rely on proven technology, So when we talk about wave energy, I don't think yet we are there to really enter into the territory of commercial bank financing, but we believe that it will come. We also need reliable and sound O&M contractors and contract. We also look at the resource availability risk, so the wind, the sun. But in general, I think banks and all relevant stakeholders, based on 10 years knowledge and experience, and improved wind studies, sun studies, etc., we have made a lot of progress there, and actually the real risk there has quite reduced. We look at legal risk, and obviously we look at the business and market risk. But the most important risk in renewable energy is actually the regulatory risk. We as bankers, but you as investors, you as developers, we can only make this work when there is consistency and faith in a regulatory framework which is there to stay. Our industry, including the financial side, we cannot live with unexpected retroactive measures. We can deal with volatility, but we cannot deal with uncertainty. And unfortunately, on back of the economic situation in Europe, we have had some bad examples which have put the renewable industry actually a little bit in a setback. If you look at the offshore wind industry today, actually 6 gigawatt is operational today. Most of those parks were actually financed either by the utilities themselves or on balance sheets, and not so much on non-recourse project financing. Non-recourse project financing is coming now to the market, now the industry matures. And there is still a very big ambition in light of the 2020 targets we heard before, but it's fair to say that there is a lot of delay, and the projects and the targets seems quite ambitious. The key challenge is that we need to get the cost down. Yeah, if you look at the EU ambitions, it's all about security of supply and bringing the cost down. Unfortunately, actually the cost of offshore wind energy have come up, where actually the cost for PV solar and onshore wind have come down incredibly. The main reason that the cost in offshore wind have come up is that the projects are further away from the coast, and that there is still a lot of R&D and new evolution and development in the wind turbines to get the higher efficiencies. As said, ING really wants to be a leading force together with their clients. If you look today at the wave and tidal industry, there is a clear ambition set that 2 gigawatt in 2020 should come from that. And Portugal, like Ireland, the UK, France and Spain, are really the main drivers behind ocean energy. Also, big names and large companies do get involved. If you look, for instance, also at the UK, there is a very generous subsidy system in place, which allocates 5 renewable obligation certificates, the so-called ROCs, to wave and tidal energy projects. That compares roughly to below 1 ROC for onshore wind. In conclusion, ING believes that renewable energy is here to stay, and that we will need funding from all types of sources. Most important, as said, we need to get the cost down. ING would like to continue to be a leading force and work with all relevant parties, players in this industry. And where we are now very busy in offshore wind, we believe that in the coming period of years, we will also move more to the wave energy technologies. Thank you for your attention.
Alex, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I will try to be brief, as I know I'm the last speaker before lunch, and from the people coming from the Netherlands, it's already 2 p.m., so I see some hungry faces over there. So we've been hearing today several speakers talking about which are the EU support mechanisms to boost R&D in the field of energy in order to achieve the EU targets by 2020. And these support mechanisms such as SET Plan and the Horizon 2020, the key energy mechanisms, and also national ones as CREN in Portugal. And in all of them, there's a clear focus on innovation and industry involvement in those R&D projects. So SI Ocean is a collaborative project funded by Intelligent Energy Europe and aiming to unite the wave and tidal industry in order to have a common agenda for the future, in order to be able to move forward in the market development. So the questions SI Ocean is trying to answer are the ones that you can read there, which are the questions that the policymakers are normally questioning. So which is the realistic contribution of wave and tidal energy for the future EU energy needs? And so here we have to identify which are those areas that are more attractive for developing the first projects, which may not be the ones that are more energetic. Also, which is the stage of technology maturity? We've heard that today in several presentations as well. So which are the technology priorities in order to mature and to move forward? Also, an important question is really wave and tidal energy going to be competitive? And to answer these questions, there's a bit of research in this project, and especially focusing on how are we going to bring the cost down. And as well, a review of which is the status of the policy today and which new policy mechanisms should be put in place in order to move forward. So the project is focusing on 3 main areas of work, which is resource assessment, aiming to develop production projections by 2020 up to 2050, and realistic ones. We've seen some targets in the past which may be too ambitious, and now the sector has understood that in order to move forward, we have to put realistic targets that are achievable in order to bring the confidence. Also, to look in technology, we will look in technology assessment, assessing which is the state of maturity, and ultimately to bring a strategic technology agenda in order for the policymakers to put the correct R&D mechanisms in place in the correct areas. And finally, also looking at policy analysis and market development in Europe to bring a market deployment strategy in order to boost market growth in the future. There are 7 partners participating in this project. 2 of them are industry associations, such as the Ocean Energy Association, but also the Renewal UK, which is the Renewal Association in the UK. And 5 research centers, which are bringing the sound research, such as Carbon Trust, WavEC, DHI from Denmark, the Joint Research Center from the European Commission, and the University of Edinburgh. But of course, this project is aiming to unite all the industry, so we've got an advisory board with a representative of the industry, and not only the industry, also funding entities such as the European Investment Bank, and also we've got observers from the European Commission. And also a very large number of stakeholders have been engaged in the consultation process with interviews and workshops that has been going along. The audience of this project is the policymakers from the national governments and the European at the European level as well. But of course, the output of this project will be also interesting for other stakeholders, such as the financial guys, the technology developers, supply chain, local authorities, and so on. And it's focusing on 6 countries. that you can see there. So Ireland, the UK, Portugal, Spain, France, and Denmark. But of course, the recommendations will be also very interesting for other countries such as the Netherlands, Germany, which have actually been involved in all the discussions. I don't have much time, but I will go through some of the outputs that are already available, and you can download all the documents online, which are freely available. But of course, the final deliverables will only be produced in the next year, early 2014, which will be the strategic technology agenda and the market deployment strategy. In terms of resource assessment, I already said that the final goal is really to produce realistic production projections for 2020-2050. And to do so, DHI, which is the Danish Hydrology Institute, has been working on an interface that allows the user to put a number of layers, starting with wave and tidal resource, but not only, also bathymetry, where are the ports, where is the grid connections were available, conflicts of use with maritime traffic, fisheries, subsea cables, and so on, so that the policymakers will be able to identify which are those areas that are available and have the appropriate conditions in order to move, not only in the long term, but especially in 2020. So those sites which maybe are closer to shore and have already grid connection, even if it's not the best sites in terms of energy, might be the most suitable to develop first. In terms of the technology assessment, several reports have been already made. One is the state-of-the-art report, then the cost of energy report and the gaps and barrier report, and the final one, which we're working on it, is a strategic technology agenda. So the state-of-the-art report is really, as the name says, state-of-the-art, so it's looking at which is the stage of maturity of the different wave and tidal technologies, but also looking at how these technologies are converging and are evolving, looking into new materials, into new installation and operational maintenance strategies that these companies are following, and so on. Sorry, it's not working. Oh, yeah. The second report is the cost of energy report. So basically it's an update. You've seen probably, most of you, these learning curves already, but now is an update looking at the actual data from the first arrays that are being developed in the north of Europe, and especially focusing on how are we going to be able to move this line down, to achieve competitive level of LCOE. So it's giving recommendations on specific areas where there's a biggest potential for cost reduction. The third report, the gaps and barrier report, has been looking at which are those critical technological barriers, and which are the technical priorities in order to move forward with the technology. And of course, all this information is feeding into the strategic technology agenda that is being developed at the moment. The final area of work is the policy analysis and market deployment. So a first deliverable was published looking at the conditions in the 6 member states, which feeds into the market deployment strategy. I will go through a summary of some of the conclusions. So it's looking at really which are the strategic plans that are in place in those countries, and also if there's strong political will or not to develop ocean energy in those areas. It's also looking at the actual financial support mechanisms in these countries in terms of market pull mechanism or technology push. So you've got the example of the UK that has been already been said today, with a very strong support in terms of market pull with the ROC system, now evolving into a feed-in tariff type system, but also with strong technology push support in order to move forward with technology development from prototype, first array demonstration, and so on. But also you have some other examples, such as, for example, Portugal with fewer financial resources, but which in the past has been able to bring projects into the water with an attractive feed-in tariff mechanism, together with some financial support mechanisms to capital support. And also, for instance, France, which is a newcomer in the ocean energy sector, but it's coming with a lot of financial support, technology push, not so much into market pull mechanisms. And as well, this report is looking at planning framework and leasing process. So which are how all the consenting and leasing is being done in different countries. If there's any a single one-stop shop process, or if it's involving multi-agencies and it's taking longer than expected. And the project is getting to the end at the moment, but as I said, there's been a lot of engagement from the stakeholders, not so much from Portuguese or Dutch companies, but there's still place to be involved. We are working now on the strategic research agenda and market deployment strategy, and we will be very happy to get you involved, and so, to do so, please contact me or Gemma and Bruno, which is the coordinator of this project, or any other of the partners which are involved, and you have it on the slide. And as I said, all these documents are available online, so please take a look and see if you find it interesting. Thank you very much.